Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, to the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Lucas, to honorable members of the NCOP, members of the executive at the national and the provincial level, representatives of the different institutions, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Chair, today is the 17th of June in 2022, which is the second day after we have celebrated the historic June 16 uprisings, which was marked by uncontrollable fury and burning hostility. Whilst many students and parents alike had not heard about Hector Peterson and many who were killed, burnings continued. Narrating the events of that day, one Solomon Marikele, who was a student from Rulani Primary School, said, "On the second day, I picked up stones and I joined the struggle. We targeted the school's buses, shops, and cars. We were angry and unstoppable." We gather here today, Honorable Chair, exactly 46 years since these uprisings. But today, not to throw stones and bombs, but to build an inclusive economy. We are, however, as resilient as those students of 1976, and we commit to ensure that the people shall share in the country's wealth. As we requested by this August House, we'll deliver an input and cut on the following pillars: our value chain economic transformation approach in the Free State and the procurement framework, and the draft integrated local economic development and transformation bill, and the strategies emanating from our master plan. On the value chain's economic transformation, part of the assessment made by the sixth administration is the lack of transformation of our economy. We realize that in terms of ownership patterns, most of the sectors of our economy were dominated largely by white-owned companies. We also found that our economy was too reliant on the export of raw materials rather than the value add to those materials. As a result, we thought that the only way to transform this economy of our province was to zoom into the value chains of key sectors of the Free State economy. The approach, which entails supporting both the primary and secondary sectors in the various value chains. The primary sectors are concerned with the input supply, production, processing, storage, wholesale, retail, and consumption. The secondary actors, which are also called value chain development support agents, get involved in services that support primary activities like transportation, brokerage, packing, handling, certification, and financial support. Our value chain actors are the promoting agents like government bodies that provide support activities and interventions to foster value chain development. And these interventions may include provision of market information, advice on business planning, or the initiation of partnering arrangements. There are also influencers of value chain like regulatory framework, policies, trade regimes, market intervention, and infrastructures. This is the rationale for us as the Free State to develop an approach towards economic transformation that we call value chain economic development and transformation approach. And on the Free State procurement framework, one of the ways to ensure that we put value chain's economic approach, we have developed the Free State procurement framework as a province. Because we understand that the Constitution of South Africa recognizes the decades of racial discrimination and economic disempowerment, which cannot be eradicated unless bold and radical decisions are taken. The most significant provision in the Constitution that precisely directs government procurements to be used as a policy tool is Section 217. This section points to 5 principles as indicated. However, the subsection 2 thereof states that it does not prevent the organs of state from implementing a procurement policy providing for categories of preference in the allocation of contracts and protection or advancement of persons or categories of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination. The Section 217 of the Constitution, therefore, makes provision for the use of state procurement as a policy tool. Therefore, this framework is intended not to replace the current procurement framework and prescripts, but to enhance the application of those. The purpose of the framework is to enhance the application of procurement processes by, among others, ensuring that provincial government leverage on the procurement spend to the benefit of the local economy, small business and cooperatives, as well as to promote and support the locally manufactured commodities, to also provide support to the small and medium enterprises to ensure that they participate in the mainstream economy through inclusion in various value chains, and to provide guidance to the provincial departments on the implementation of the framework and ensure monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of this framework. But most importantly, to link public procurement with the SMME development through their policy. To ensure successful implementation of the industrialization strategy, the provincial government should provide support to the designated sectors by sourcing of goods and services from manufacturers and not third parties. And this should be clearly stipulated in the bid documents to ensure that non-manufacturing activities enterprises are eliminated. We have also noticed that there are some of the key departments that are the highest spenders on the goods and services over the past 5 years, and which will be used, or they have been identified as those budgets which will be used strategically for the purposes of industrialization, aimed specifically at the locals and the small businesses. Those are the departments of human settlements, education, police, roads and transport, and public works, which are mainly in the economic cluster. And on the integrated local economic development and transformation bill, we have noticed that the economy of South Africa and the Free State in particular continues to remain untransformed. And the lack of enforceable business regulation regime creates unfavorable conditions for economic participation, investments, and economic growth. And of the key challenges that are facing the Free State economy are the lack of regulation, the barriers to entry, and the skewed ownership patterns, and the difficulty of participation by those that were previously disadvantaged, and the lack of financial and non-financial support towards the small business. To this end, the provincial government has produced a draft Free State local economic and transformation bill in order to address these challenges. This bill,
excuse me, MEC, can I ask Mahoka to please mute? Mahoka, Kobola, Salom. Please mute. Still not muted. Mahoka?
Sorry?
Salom, please mute.
Okay, sorry, I was not away.
Can you please mute?
All right, I'm going to the...
Still not muted. Can you please mute your microphone?
Yes.
I'm trying to get to the system, to the...
Okay. Sorry about that, MEC.
Thank you.
Unmute MEC, unmute MEC. You are muted now.
Yes. Yeah, MEC, you are now muted. You are still muted. Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, thank you very much. This bill seeks to facilitate and promote inclusive economic growth, allowing a transformative paradigm in order to build a cohesive and an equal society which is underpinned by growing and inclusive economy that harness potential of all citizens and persons with permanent status in the Republic. And this bill also seeks to ensure that it will diversify the ownership patterns, but also to facilitate easier access by new entrants to all the sectors of the economy. With this bill, the provincial government seeks to utilize it once passed as one of the catalysts to ensure that all the state institutions, particularly the provincial government and municipalities, are compelled to make use of the small business as opposed to that matter being left in the hands or the consciousness of those that are making decisions. Part of the key to that bill is that it tries to ensure that it will compel everyone who uses the public funds to procure to direct them that only those goods that are produced within the borders of the Free State must be the ones that are given preference. That will ensure that there is a demand that has been created into those commodities which are produced in the Free State province. This comes as a result of the fact that most of the goods that are consumed or commodities, they are mostly or majority of them being sourced outside the borders of the province, and the province loses an opportunity to add value. And also as a result, it loses the opportunity to create jobs. Lastly, on the strategies emanating from master plans of key economic sectors. As part of ensuring that we transform our economy, we are focused on the following value chains of the economy, which we have developed: the clothing, textile, leather and footwear, tourism, agro-processing, biodiversity, land and property, steel and metal fabrication, mining, automotive, chemicals and energy, financial services, communications, and digital economy. Emanating from this, we have developed specific strategies from each master plan. For an example, as part of our economic recovery plans, we are taking a focused approach in supporting businesses that are in agro-processing. This is in line with the strategy of the Free States to leverage on one of our strengths, which is agriculture. Because Free State has always been known as one of the breadbaskets of the country because of its strong agricultural input. And it is for this reason that we want to continue to pursue accelerated and inclusive growth of this sector. This will ensure that we are able to create jobs, provide much needed skills, and bring food security to the people. And as the Free State, we also recognize the huge potential, the huge economic potential that can be brought about by commercialization of cannabis and hemp. This potential is documented in the department's biodiversity master plan as one of those subsectors with potential. As a province also wants to be as a pioneers by tapping into prospective economic stimulus, green gold, that it can bring for the province. And the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that we need to strengthen our local industries to be responsive to supply chain needs. This presents the South African manufacturing sector an opportunity to position itself as an attractive business destination. This is in line with our economic recovery plan as we want to position the Free State manufacturing base as competitive for both local and global markets. And that bill, once passed, it will then ensure that this becomes a reality.
We lost you now, MEC.